Hello, and this is the first video for my channel. I am the level 1 anime noob, and what I'll be doing on this channel is a bunch of anime reviews. But with that out of the way, I feel we should have a good baseline for what I really like within a show. So I'm going to go and review my currently favorite anime that I have watched, just so you kind of know what I like as a show and, you know, can get a gist of what I like when I'm watching anime. With that being said, if you end up liking this video, please, like and subscribe. I like growth, it's dope. Don't like the beg, but it's kind of, you have to do it. With that being said, it's time to review Psycho-Pass. So if you've not watched this show, giving you a brief summary, that pretty much it's taking place 20 years in the future from now, and the government has a different system where they have a surveillance system that is pretty much able to read a person's Psycho-Pass number. It's able to evaluate it on the spot and pretty much update it and all that stuff. And pretty much what this number does is, if it's high, it tells you that this person may do horrendous acts, and if the number's low, they're probably going to be fine. They're just doing what they need to do for society, and everything's good. This system generally brings a lot of safety to the people of this fictional world. But of course, there's still people with these high numbers, and there is ways to try and avoid it. And pretty much the conflict is there's these people with high numbers, and these police officers, the people we are following, pretty much have to capture or kill them. Now I want to get into the details of this show. And I think the first is going over the start and the end, because those are generally the most important points. The start is the hook of the show, and I feel the first episode of any show should try to be hooking you into every other episode. And the final episode is always dependent of how well did it end. Sometimes you can write off the last episode, but hopefully you don't have to do that, and the show is just great, has amazing ending. And how does this rate? I think the first episode for the show was generally amazing. It kind of showed you what will be happening. It disposed of one villain character within the whole episode, and pretty much it gets right to the point. We have our main character go up to the agency, pretty much the building, and it's like, hey, I just got hired, and it's like, okay, yep, get to work. and they're immediately on a job, which these jobs are, of course, where generally most of the action will take place. Pretty much, it does explain some very brief things real quick to just make sure you know stuff, like enforcers and the inspectors, where inspectors don't really do too much, and they just make sure the enforcers are doing what they need to do to get the job done and do it properly, while the enforcers are kind of doing dirty work and messing around with these criminals. Reason because enforcers have already a high Psycho-Pass number and are only able to have this slight bit of freedom over others just because they are doing this work and helping out this police agency. So the first episode, it just covers one little conflict. We go through one character who they take out, and yeah, they cover it super well. They do a lot of show not tell within the first episode. They don't explain too much of what the story will become, but it does give you a brief flash into the future of the show with one of the moments to incite a bit of action immediately once you click on the episode. And it's honestly done pretty well because it doesn't just kind of spoil the end through foreshadowing. It just foreshadows a moment that will happen and doesn't really tell too much about what will happen within that moment. It just tells these things will happen. You don't know what's before or after it. I also like the ending of the show very much. It has pretty good storytelling techniques where the story wraps around, history repeats itself, and it kind of shows that, and it's honestly a nice thing that I like to see. It was definitely cool when I saw that. I'm like, oh, damn, okay, that a perfect wraparound, which is nice and amazing. The conflict got solved in a very interesting and compelling way. It did leave loose ends for, a second or third to build upon, but it definitely showed a lot. It gave you a bunch of the answers you really needed, and it gave you enough detail to generally grab your sides on who you were with, and the conflict that was in through practically half of the show gets resolved. And yeah, I really like it. I think it was done well, executed very properly. Love it. I also want to go over characters real quick. Of course, characters aren't the most important thing to a story. I think a show can still be really good without even amazing characters. Like, none of the characters actually have to be on a top favorite list for a good show to be a thing. And I think the show, it has some kind of interesting characters, nothing too strong that I'm like, wow, this character is amazing, I love them. They are very interesting to watch, but they do just as much as they need. They don't excel in character writing in any sense. The main character, there's kind of like two for the story. We have a Kane, who is the new inspector that is going on, and then we have the enforcer, Kogami, I'm pretty sure is his name. Hopefully I got that right, or pronounced it right, for that matter. So he is a enforcer, so you get the two different sides. Through these main characters, they kind of connect pretty well, and Kogami, he's just pretty well, he's very interesting. I would say he's more interesting than the inspector, but she's just fine. Like, I would not say, oh my god, the most compelling character ever, but I think that's a good summary of the characters. They execute what needs to happen in the story well, and they keep me engaged in what I'm watching, but overall they're characters that are not, oh my god, this character is written just amazing. The villain, some would say he's written way better. Of course, his philosophical ideals are very interesting to the story. Of course, I say interesting way too much. Hopefully you're not drinking to every time I say it. He is very cool. I wouldn't say he's the best villain because, well, there's villains that are a harder department to win in, if I'm to be honest. But for what race he is competing in, he actually does put himself pretty well. Every time he was on screen, he's very interesting. His debut in front of the main characters, even though it was kind of ironic to us because we've been able to see him way longer, but the reveal to the actual characters of the show, very interesting, very well done, kept a very intense moment that I really liked within the show. So he's done well. He isn't the most impressive character in ever any sense, but he's done well. And of course I want to go over any other characters of note if there's just that one side character. It's like, yep, he's bomb. Man, I love Mazuka. He's the dad, pretty much. And I just like him because he's such a fatherly character. And he is a good show not tell of this concept that maybe this psychopath number, is not actually a fitting rating for people. Because his number kind of says, oh yeah, he is just a monster, he's ready to shake some people, when in reality he's just so caring. Even for characters he has not even learned too much about. Since he has been in the field, he knows a lot, and he's probably the most experienced character of any character there. He's just so fatherly. He's just making sure everything goes well for all the people around him, and he's very willing to sacrifice himself for others, and it's just lovely. He also has another aspect within the show, which is spoilery, so we'll keep off of that, but that aspect's amazing too, and his moments are great, and he was amazing till the very end of the show. Loved him. My favorite character by far within the show. And the last thing I go over within things is the show interesting? It's the most important aspect. No matter how weird it is, as long as it's interesting to you, I really don't see the problem. If you like weird cat girl type stuff, but you're engaged in the whole show, I give it up for you. It's good, I guess. And of course the pacing. I like to go through that. So for a 22 episode show, it's pretty short, not the shortest. Usually you see 12 for these short series. And man, I really like the pacing. I feel at least the first 11 episodes were done so amazing. I feel they were pretty flawless in the writing, and I wouldn't want to see anything more or less. It was done and executed superbly. The episodes after, the other half, that's when there's more debate on how the show could have went. But honestly, I think the show did amazing. I don't feel any episode should have had been reduced or cut or, you know, put in different details. I think everything they showed, everything they put in was put in very well, and there was really not a second wasted or a second that didn't need to be there and stuff. Like, I feel the 22 episodes was a very fitting length for how much story they got in and how interesting it was. Of course, it kept me engaged the whole time. The show is way more on the action side. There is a little bit less dialogue than other shows, and it doesn't really fuse too much. Like, I would say, you know, those characters that monologue within the fights. Jojo, for example, my stance power. Like, nah, they're not doing that. When the action's happening, it's pretty much just action, just a little bit of dialogue spread in, not these monologues. But there's also just the simple talking points to calm, and I think the calm's done very well. I'm interested every time. It's just nice, like in the office, you know, they're just talking to each other. Of course, usually Mazuka, my favorite characters within those scenes, and since he was so good, he does actually help in these, you know, kind of slower scenes, help it be way more interesting, because he all his dialogue's just done so well. I think the pacing's very good. I was entertained the whole time. I loved it. You know, I binged it. I was like back to back to back, and I'm like, man, I love this. This is great. So that, my friends, is my favorite show. If you know shows like this, something on the same vein, go suggest it to me. I really want to see more stuff like it. I want to have something take the top spot of my anime over this one, because that means there has to be something, you know, better and something I'll enjoy even more than this. And that's the aspect I want to see. I want to see that happen. So overall, if you've not watched it, as long as you're not trying to watch gore, blood, and all that, it's very mature. But, you know, if you want to see something like that, I think it's just amazing. It's amazing. I love it. It could be a hard opinion by me, but, you know, whatever. Really like it. I suggest it to you guys, and thank you guys for watching this video. You know, like and subscribe if you haven't. You know, it's important for my channel that I'm trying to grow. I want to, you know, become bigger faster. That's just a lovely aspect in which I would want, and hopefully I put in the work and the entertaining value that actually deserves those likes and subs. But thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you liked it and enjoyed it all. See you guys in the next video. Goodbye.